and we have been traveling the world sharing this information. And what people have been asking us is to present what there is to come. And this is our first presentation on what there is to come. We've been following a schedule, and the schedule has been right on for 16.4 billion years. So here we go. Fasten your seatbelts. Here's Ian Lungold.
Well, thank you. This is Maddie, by the way, Madeline. So, I'm going to start the proceedings the way that we traditionally start, and that is with words from the Hopi people, words from their ancestors passed down to us in these current days. There is a river flowing very fast. It is so swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel that they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has a destination. The elders say, we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves together, as we are tonight. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones who we were waiting for. Aho. Okay. I think the first fair question is to ask all the people in the crowd, how many of you have been to one of these presentations before? Or more? Man, am I glad to see that. Because for the last year and a half, I've been going over all the basics and the basics. And now it's time to start bringing the Mayan calendar to your breakfast table. We have things going on in our environment and in our economies and society which have a lot to do with the Mayan calendar and what it says is supposed to be happening right now. So I am prepared to go over the basics for those people who haven't ever seen it before. But I'm going to go through this at a rip-roaring pace. We're going to be running through this to get to the other information. So if you think this is a little sketchy at the beginning, there's lots of information. There's tapes available to give you more detail on what we're going to be going through. And there, of course, is the book. Dr. Carl Johan Kalaman is a biochemical engineer from Sweden, and he has written this book after 7 years of clinical research into the Mayan calendar. What he has in this book would take me a week of a course to train you in. I'm not going to try to do that. This has got all of the data and facts and background information to back up what we're going to be going over tonight. Then there's this. This is a tool that I invented some years ago. It's a perpetual daily Mayan calendar. It has very simple graphs or charts here that convert the Gregorian calendar to the Mayan calendar so you can find out what the day is on the Mayan calendar. Today is 5 Monkey, by the way. You can find out what the day is and what that day means according to the Mayan calendar, and what the intent of the day is onto creation, which gets quite personal as you go through this and get in line with it. Okay. Glad we've got lots of room. There we go. So, for those of you who have been to our talks in the past, you know that there's one statement I make. It's that what I believe is the basic law of the universe, and that is, what you pay attention to, you become conscious of. And it doesn't matter how highly evolved spiritually you are or not. What a great Swami pays attention to, he becomes conscious of. The more often, or the most closely you pay attention, the more conscious of that thing you become. Which is one of the reasons to come and hear this information over and over again. We are starting with this talk about consciousness. And consciousness needs a definition for this evening at least, because there's lots of them that people use. My preference for the definition of consciousness is the awareness of being aware. In whatever state you are aware of it, the awareness of being aware is the essence of consciousness. That's what we're really talking about. Consciousness. And calendars. What is a calendar? A calendar is an agreement of a society or civilization on what time it is. It's actually the dead center of any civilization or any group consciousness. It's where everything happens in regards or in relation to. In our society, what we have as far as an agreement about time is a thing called the Gregorian calendar. We'll talk very briefly about that later. But your consciousness always has a location. Always. Like this, your consciousness has a bullseye. A place in time and place, an orientation. Your consciousness is oriented to time and place. Now, these things are considerations, shared agreements, shared thoughts with other people. It is this point right here that is the location of your viewpoint. You've each got one, a viewpoint, and it's yours and no one else can have it. You built it by all your decisions of time and place, time and place. You have established the content of your viewpoint. We're going to be hopefully expanding or feeding this viewpoint so that you can have more orientation. But right now, our calendar, the agreement on what time it is, you can see how integral that is to the consciousness of a civilization as well as an individual. Our Gregorian calendar works in reference to the sun. Here's the Gregorian calendar. And it works like this. There's our sun, and here's us, Earth. And we go around the sun every 365 and 1/4 days. This is the Gregorian calendar. This is also the focus of our civilization's consciousness. In fact, our definition of time as a people is physical motion through space equals time. To be brief, the whole focus of our civilization is only on physical evidence. Now, some of us may disagree a little, but I'm talking about the focus of our civilization, not the individuals. You know the difference? What I'm talking about? Some people are on different levels of consciousness, but as an overall whole, Western civilization especially is concentrated on just physical. Not all calendars are that way. The Mayan calendar is an outstanding example of not being oriented to physical motion. The Mayan calendars were sacred. In fact, the Gregorian calendar was sacred. It was put in by Pope Gregory. At the beginning, people called it the year of our Lord. It was all sacred. But having to focus on material rather than anything immaterial, that meaning eroded away. Maya had two calendars, the Zolkin, which was the personal calendar, or the astrological calendar of the Maya. This calendar is 260 days long. There are no moons or planets or anything else moving around the sun every 260 days. So this calendar was not timing any orbits of any planets. The Tune calendar is a 360-day calendar. The Tune calendar was the divine calendar or prophetic calendar of the Maya. And all the carved dates, all the dates carved in stone all over Mesoamerica are carved in tunes, not 365-day cycles. They're all carved in how many periods of 360 days have passed. The calendars work together like two gears. Okay? These are each a day. And there's 360 of them in one round. And here, there are 260 teeth. Now, each one of those days has a very specific spiritual meaning. The Mayan calendar and this tool that I've produced actually explains all those sacred meanings every day. But this cycle, going around, turns this one. There are no planets or moons going around in our solar system every 360 days around the sun. So this calendar as well was not keeping track of any physical motion. What were these guys timing? That's the big mystery that Mr. Coleman and myself have helped solve. Well, and everybody else that came up with scientific facts and breakthroughs along the way. Here's what they were timing. This is what kind of looks like a pyramid. It's a graphical display of a calendar stone that the Maya left in a city called Koba some 2,500 years ago. They carved periods of time that represented the stages of the calendar, of the Mayan calendar. And each one of these 9 levels is further divided into 13 sections. Can you see those on the bottom? 13 sections. They go in days and nights. That means there's 7 days and 6 nights to each level of creation. We've heard that one somewhere before. 7 days. This first cycle began 16.4 billion years ago. This is called the cellular cycle. The cellular cycle, because way over here, in that magical 13th section, which is actually 1.26 billion years long, we're still living in that 1.26 billion years. Everything that's happened, of course, all of human history has happened in the very later sections of that 1.26 billion years. What happened right here, though, was the first form of cellular life. There were bacteria and viruses before, but there were the cells. The very next stage of creation started 820 million years ago. Now, this is carved in a rock in the Yucatan Peninsula by the Maya. They said that the next stage in consciousness started here. And life sciences will tell you that this is when animals first appeared. Not animals with 4 legs, but multicellular groups of cells working in cooperation for survival. The first multicellular organisms started right here. And evolution, going through these 1 through 13, made change after change after change to produce man. As a matter of fact, each one of these stages is 63.5 approximately million years long. Each one of those 1 through 13 is 63.5 million years long. Coincidentally, life sciences find that there are major jumps forward in the structure and function of consciousness in animals every 63.5 years, or million years. Here, this one is 41 million years ago. It's called the familiar, or familial cycle. This was another stage of consciousness where over 41 million years, consciousness built the relationship of family. We'll go through this just really quick, the different kinds of consciousness that were the result of this. Each day and night, each one of these 13 was 3.2 million years long. Two million years ago, we started building a tribal consciousness. This is where cells group together for survival in this stage and further develop. Then there were a further organization of organisms into family groups. Then these family groups organized into tribes. Every 160,000 years was one of these steps. The cultural stage started 102,000 years ago. This, by the way, is when we learn to speak with one another. Each day and night was 8,000 years long. The national section started 3115 BC. This is the birthday of Egypt. It's also the birthday of writing. It's also the beginning of the age of bronze. Every 394 years was one of these steps of 1 through 13. The planetary section started in 1755. And this whole section went through its stages every 19.7 years. The galactic cycle started January 5th, 1999. And in case you haven't noticed, things are changing quicker. In fact, we go through one of those days and nights every 360 days. The same amount of change that happened over 1.26 billion years at the beginning of this now happens in every 360 days. There is a dramatic acceleration going on here, folks. Universal consciousness. February 10th, 2011, we start this consciousness cycle. And during that cycle, the same amount of change that is taking place in a year, in 360 days, will happen in 20 days. And it will get much faster than that. That's how fast it is when it starts. And it goes faster and faster. Just like this cycle is going faster and faster. But the most important thing is to know where we're going. Especially if you're going faster and faster. Isn't it? Okay, well, kind of to figure out where you're going, sometimes you look at where you've been. If you've already gone through Galveston, then you know you're not going to Galveston. And let's go through this consciousness cycle, these different kinds of consciousness that happened in these different cycles. Down here in the very beginning, this was all just action, reaction. Just action and then reaction. No thinking about it. That was the level of consciousness. If you drop a ball, it bounces. Heat and chemical bonds or or debondings happen at certain times. Action, reaction. That was the level of consciousness that happened over and over again, developing and developing until it actually produced the miracle of life. Then, the miracle of life, that state of consciousness became stimulus response. Stimulus response as opposed to action-reaction. It's a higher evolved means of dealing with the environment. And it took some 820 million years to develop it. Here, we went into individual stimulus and response. Or stimulus individual response. Where here, things were grouped together as nests, hives, flocks, schools, herds. The whole body responded as one. Here, though, came the concept of individual. And it is that concept that allows you to have a family relationship rather than just being one of the pack or one of the hive. There is an interpersonal communication and relationship between individuals. This is a huge step for consciousness. In this cycle, we started being able to see similarities and differences. This is the purpose of your mind, to look at similarities and differences and come up with decisions about your future. And that has been developed over the last 2 million years. In the cultural stage, consciousness started coming up with reasons. Reasons for things to exist. Why is there rain? What are the stars? What is fire? These things are reasons. That became cosmology and shamanism and eventually religion and priesthoods. But it started 102,000 years ago, us coming up with reasons for things. In the national section, consciousness moved into laws and punishment. As a stage of consciousness. You've all heard the story of Adam and Eve. Do you guys know about when that story took place, according to the Hebrew Bible? Just about 60 years after this started. The whole idea of right and wrong, good and bad, was achieved during this period. Before that, there were only reasons things happened. There were superstitions, but there were suggestions, but there wasn't a line of dividing good and evil, right and wrong. It was during this period that laws came to be. Here, in the planetary cycle, consciousness was aimed primarily at one thing: power. Power and more power. Power to manipulate the environment. During this last section of the national cycle, we started discovering the laws of nature and harnessing those to supply us with more energy, for more power. Back here in 1755, a man with 25 horses was a powerful individual. But each one of you rode over here in a carriage with some 180 horses pulling it. We each have a lot more power. Knowledge is power. You can go on the internet like I did today and look up absolutely anything you're curious about. You can know miracles. Imagine a person, an educated person in 1755. Medicine was a primitive art. There was no science attached to it. There was no higher learning. Not in any context as we have now. We have a lot more power at our disposal, thanks to this last 257 years. But power is not the end of the game, not evidently. There's a new kid on the block, a new consciousness that entered on January 5th, 1999. And that consciousness is of ethics. Now, a lot of people have ethics and morals kind of put together in the same soup. They're not really. Morals are a cultural thing. Morals are legislated by laws. Ethics is something which is deeply personal. Ethics is basically knowing the right thing to do and doing it. There's lots of things that are somehow moral, but not exactly ethical. Ethics is a refined consciousness. We'll be talking more about this because what we're going through right now is an evolution from some of these consciousnesses into higher consciousnesses. It's not always been an easy thing in the past, and we shouldn't really expect it to be so easy now, although our understanding will help tremendously. The universal consciousness that we will arrive at completely by October 28, 2011, is the consciousness of consciously co-creating. Consciously co-creating your very experience. I want that to sink in just a little bit so you got kind of an idea of how much we have to evolve, or don't have to, how much we're given the opportunity to evolve in a very, very short period of time. Right now, consciousness on Earth is sort of semi-conscious, wouldn't you say? I mean, for sure, it's a co-creation. Our reality is a co-creation. Everybody, with all their points of view, are adding to this, whether they know it or not. And most don't. Most folks don't understand that they're not a victim. That they're actually participating in this co-creation. There's some of us who have a pretty bright glimmer of it every once in a while, right? That we're consciously co-creating. Haven't you noticed more and more of what you intend coming about one way or another? I know that I have, and I know that many people that I talk to, friends, that have come up to me and said, "My God, things are manifesting so fast. I was just thinking about such and such, and now it's in my life." Conscious co-creation is being spoon-fed to us. And people are waking up in droves everywhere to this fact. But we're going to be talking about the actual stages we'll go through, this 1 through 13. We're going to go through this and show you where and when the stages are. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening right now in our socio-political arenas in the world. Primarily, there are certain kinds of consciousness which are sort of like a dead weight, dragging things down, need to be overcome to move on to higher and higher states of consciousness. One of those is this cultural consciousness down here. We as humanity pretty much have gotten over tribal consciousness and having to belong to a small group of people. Now we have much larger vistas of consciousness. The cultural one is always a set of beliefs. I mean, they're the reasons people are living. Like there's certain folks who are living to be Israel or Israelis. And there are other people who are living to be Palestinians or Hindus or Muslims, which is okay unless you think that this is the most important thing. If you think that Muslimism is the most important thing and all other religions, faiths, or sciences are bunk, then this cultural belief is in your way. If you believe that you have to be Protestant or you have to be Catholic in order to be right, that's limiting and in the way. And those viewpoints, frankly, are now going extinct. That way of looking at things just won't fly anymore. Now, as the grip on people's consciousness starts to slip away from those empowered in the cultures, they will get a little bit more frantic. I mean, just think about anything suffocating to death, and you'll see what these folks are going through. There is no way out if you think you're the only one. That includes me. The national laws and punishment, fight and die for country, that whole idea is dying, isn't it? Do you watch the news? Anybody admit to watching the news? Well, I understand not watching the news. But I don't know how you could possibly help but hear all the hue and cry over whether it's right to go murder innocents in Iraq for our principle and or not. There's a huge debate going on right now on whether it's right to defend the nation against any and all possible threat, as though the nation was the most important thing in anyone's life or on the planet. America is America. It's a plot of ground. It's no more important than Africa or Asia. It's all part of a planetary body. We have no more privilege, or should have no more privilege, than anyone else on earth. And the whole idea that we have to go defend our privilege is dying, isn't it? Thank you. This can be a two-way deal, by the way. I'm not up here just to lecture. I don't like that. The whole idea of nationalism is going extinct. Makes sense. We have a planetary economy. We have planetary communications. Borders are getting less and less important. So these people that are locked into, or that consciousness which is locked into the narrow view of love it or leave it, whether it's Alberta or America, those people are going to be moved one way or another. It happened to the dinosaurs down here. It actually happened to the Neanderthals right there. And here, this planetary cycle, we're all riding the crest, riding in the first car of the power train. All over the world. We got Bush, he's up there stoking the coal into the engine, and all of us, public, not part of the government, but all this public are riding in the first car. It's a nice car. Leather seats, frilly cushions, curtains, drinks served by the minute. This train's got a lot of power behind it. We're trying to show it to the world right now. But you know what? Ethics and power at the beginning are diametrically opposed. Remember those old movies, beginning of movies that were still like flickery, you know? And they had two engines, two big steam locomotives, one on the track over here and one on the track over there. They made them run as fast as they could at one another. Did you ever see those newsreels? Come on.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks. You can hear me, I can't hear you. That's what's going on right now. Right as we speak, there is this power train which is running as fast as it can. And then on the tracks, coming the other direction, is ethics. Have you noticed any of that in the news? You see, these different stages, we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail, because you want to know when this is going to happen. We'll talk about more of that in detail, but I wanted you to get the idea. A train wreck happens really fast, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know, we are going so fast, our consciousness is going so fast, that the way we see this train wreck is in super, super, super slow motion. What happened just a little while ago is that we went through the midnight of the fourth stage down there. Now, what always happens during the fourth stage is that diametric points of view come together. And I'll show you some of that in a little bit. But they come together. And on June 17th, which was right there, June 17th of this cycle, the cow catchers touched. The cow catcher of the power train and the cow catcher of the ethics engine touched. The impact really began. You know what happened on that day?
No.
WorldCom. All of a sudden, what might have been a little problem with Enron blossomed into a uh-oh, and we're still going, I don't want to see. I don't even want to know. I'm not even going to watch the news. Sorry, folks, it's coming anyway. It's a lot better to be informed. So what we're seeing here is this power train, and we're going to watch as the headlight caves in, and the plates start to buckle, and the pipes springing, steam is spewing, and the boiler is going to burst. And the tracks, the wheels are going to leave the track completely on this power train. Now, this is not me doing this, no more than I killed all the dinosaurs. This isn't anything personal. This is a process. And this is a real serious deal. It's also going to be lots of fun. Because there's actually, I'm kind of making suspenseful, but there's more good happening than bad. All that's going to happen is all the people on the power train are going to get pretty roughed up. But there's lots of other good things. This ethical consciousness must be in place before we can go into conscious co-creation. Frankly, do you trust your neighbor to be able to create anything he wanted in your backyard? We're just not there yet. Okay. You guys have seen this snowman-y type thing before, but this is a diagram of what's kind of happening in our time-space. In the past, there was only so much happening in any moment. Let's say there was 3 things that could happen to you or for you in any moment. That is, there could be something good for you, something bad for you, and something kind of down the middle. And it was your job to pick out a direction, pick an opportunity, take it, and see what happens. Take this one to your goal. Okay. Take this one to your goal just because it looks like it's the closest. Now, in the present, there's more happening in every moment. There's more opportunities open and available to you than there were to any other part of humanity. If you doubt it, go try to order a cup of coffee at Starbucks. It's not just coffee, tea, or cream, sugar, or black anymore. Now you have lots and lots of opportunity. You vegetarians from 25 years ago, look at the variety you have now of what to eat as opposed to then. There are more and more and more options in your life. That's because creation is speeding up, presenting more and more opportunities in every moment. It's compacting. This will continue all the way to where it's totally possible for you to consciously co-create absolutely any reality you could possibly imagine. And you will have a wonderful imagination by that time. In the present, there's more and more going on. From the past, from the view of the past, we're living as wizards. From just 180 years ago, you people are all wizards for just the fact that you're sitting there. How'd you get here this fast? Where's your horse? Because back then, a horse was about the fastest thing going. So, in the future, here it is. In the future, there will be even more possibilities, even more opportunities. And I've talked to most of you guys before about this, about the teleportation experiments that are being done all over the world, about the genetic research which is happening, about the particles, the nanoparticles and nanocomputers that are being developed right now. Life will not be like it is in less than 4 years. Many, many people will be losing their jobs because what they're producing will be completely useless. It will be surpassed by new technologies. If you work in a delivery service, teleportation is going to put you out of it. That's a lot of people involved in transportation. From tires on up to mechanics and drivers and loaders, and all those people will be out of a job. The airline traffic and business. We are looking at such massive changes in the way we do business that you can hardly imagine them. Think about a person just 100 years ago trying to do your job now with no computer skills, afraid of the telephone. It would be stressful for them. We are going to be going into that reality very, very quickly. And it's going to put special stresses on everything. It already is. Our social structures, our social support systems, are they bankrupt? Are they basically going down the tube? By all reports they are. It's going to become up to each individual or those grouped together individuals to propel themselves or to flow with the changes rather than any kind of resisting. These miracles are going to be wonderful for everyone, but that does mean a lot of change. There are medical miracles happening all the time. One of the wonderful things that's just happened is that modern medicine has now discovered the food, the fuel of your immune system. So they can put down all antibiotics. Now, is that going to make some pharmaceutical industry people upset? Do you suppose it might frighten doctors that your immune system can handle and cure more than they can? I'd say yeah. But it's the fact. And it's also getting more and more necessary. I mean, there's bad things happening, like Nilvirus. No, that's bad. Nilvirus. The Nilvirus only attacks people with a weak immune system. That's the only fatalities. If a person had a good, strong immune system, those mosquitoes are no bother. That kind of thing, that kind of truth needs to be spoken and needs to be passed out to people. That's part of your responsibility as an individual, is to find the truth, what works, and pass it on. Because there's going to be a lot of need to that. More and more opportunity means more and more is possible. Down here, we have October 28, 2011. That's the end of the Mayan calendar. The reason the calendar ends is because creation itself, geometrically, accelerates and accelerates and accelerates. It keeps doing that until finally everything which is infinitely possible all occurs at exactly the same moment, which is the truth in the first place. But our consciousness is not up to that speed. Just like all the natural laws that we have developed, including the law of flight, it was not possible until our consciousness was up to speed. Now we can look back and say, it was always possible. We just couldn't do it. These are the kind of challenges that we have in front of us. October 28th is the end of the Mayan calendar because all considerations of limitation on the part of time and space will be gone. So there's no more need for a calendar to keep track of the motion. And your consciousness will not be fixed on physical. It will be infinitely free to creation. That's a long ways away, ain't it? It is in consciousness, but not in time, which is a real conundrum. We're going to get a galactic consciousness really quick. Have you guys been keeping track of of how many new planets they're finding around other suns in our galaxy? They're finding hundreds of them now. I know, you guys know that like just 10 years ago, people wondered if they'd ever find planets that could support life outside of Earth. And now they're finding hundreds of planets around other suns. We are gaining a galactic consciousness. It actually started January 1999. That means, well, we already have a planetary consciousness right now, right? It was developed from 1755 all the way up until 1992, which is when the internet went up. And we got, really fast, a planetary consciousness. We're not kidding around here. We really will have a galactic consciousness. We are going to meet the neighbors. Just as soon as we get over this power trip and become ethical. Can you see us going out into the galaxy right now? Yeah, Earth #1! Yeah! We'll kick your butt! We're not ready. We got some dues to pay before that time. Now, what I wanted to do is I want to go through the 1 through 13 more in detail so you guys can see the progression of these stages, or this evolution. Now, this is the first day. The first day of the 1 through 13. And what it's about is initiation. It's about beginnings. And this right here, I'll draw it a little darker. That's a seed. The seed of an idea, the seed of a culture. It's the source. Now, what the Maya have gods for all these. Would you like to know the names of the gods of these 13? The first one is the God of procreation. This is where stuff starts. Now, this is where, in 820 million years ago, during this period, is when multicellular animals started. It's also when monkeys showed up in their cycle. It's where Homo habilis showed up. It's where the Sinai kingdom showed up, and it's also where the theory of the telegraph showed up. Right here, beginnings of things happened during this period of time. Here, during the first night, it's like this. It's a nighttime, but the seed is in the ground, and it germinates. This right here is when consciousness is activated. It's conceived here, but it's activated there. Just like a seed, you can have it in your hand, but once it's in the ground and it's germinating, it's activated. And it begins to perform a life form. This right here started January 5th, 1999. Now there was something started in our consciousness right then, wasn't there? Remember Y2K? What was the lesson of Y2K?
Be prepared. Marketing sucks.
I heard be prepared out there. That's very good. But what I got from it was that maybe our power systems weren't all that trustworthy. Maybe all of this way that we're doing life isn't all that real in the first place. Because it could have all disappeared in the blink of an eye. It did not. But that wasn't the important part. What was important was that there was a consciousness planted. A consciousness that really, when it came down to it, your consciousness is what counts. And your ability to handle change is what counts. Whether you took it seriously or not, the threat. The whole idea was that you were going to be more personally responsible and not the systems. Here, this was the year 2000. This is 1999. And until the end of 2000. Then this one went from 2000 to the end of 2001. Here is the activation of that consciousness. In other words, if you had a plan for survival, remember 2000, after it didn't happen? Didn't you still keep a hold of some of those plans or that viewpoint? You didn't go, oh, that was nothing to worry about. You still had more consciousness of our systems and of change. As a matter of fact, many, many people right during this period of time realized that more is possible. In fact, everything is possible. And that led right up to 9/11. Everything is possible. What was considered unthinkable and impossible occurred in front of the whole world. It's impossible that America be attacked through its defense systems, especially our Pentagon. It's impossible. And yet it was demonstrated right there. Anything is possible. during the second day, what we have right here is a sprout. When the seed comes up through the ground, it goes boink, boink, and displays polarity. Right and left, good and bad, terrorist and patriot. It displays it big and wide. Isn't that what just happened? This was in December of 2001, this started. And here we are in 2002. So the 2 on there. During this period of time in history, there have been conflicts, big ones. As a matter of fact, there have been, it's during this one right here, which is 2002, which we're now in, 2003. This right here is a display of polarity. This is when you actually have connection. They come to blows. Civilizations and societies come to blows during this. This was the French-Indian War, for instance, during that cycle. Here, in this third day, what we have,
What's the days?
and this is expansion, and it's the god of sunrise. This is wind. This is the god of dance during that period. Here we have the anchoring of the truth. The anchoring of the truth. The god is of water. This date right here is December 14th of 2003. Excuse me, 2002. 14th of December. I'm going to do this backwards. Yep, like that. 1, 2. So, this third day is very special. During the third day of each one of these big cycles, the first third day of the mammalian cycle was the Cambrian explosion. That's the biggest explosion of life on this planet that's ever existed. We started going from little tiny plants to seaweed and kelp, all the way up to anemones and to the beginning of crustaceans, right there in this period of time. Huge outpouring of life during the third day. Then Homo erectus showed up during the third day. That's important to us. Then the Neanderthals showed up during this third day of their cycle. Then the foundations of Greece, the whole civilization of Greece was started during this third day. This was when they were putting together the Oracle of the Delphi during the third day. Then more common is the telegraph was actually invented during the third day. Darwin was publishing his works that he had been investigating all during this third day. Major truths come forward during the third day. In a plant, what we have is the first couple of sets of leaves have fallen off now, and now we have permanent leaves that will eventually become branches of a tree. And the root system is more fully developed. It's reaching down to establish itself in water. The truth comes out during the third day.
Ian, say where we are now, please.
And where we are right now is we're at the very end of this second night. This is where we are. Right there. The second night ends on December 14th, 2002. And this runs through most of 2003. What we can expect here is all the truth. I don't think... How many people out there think you've heard all the truth? About our governments, our systems, about religion. How many people out there think that you've heard all... Really?
Lots of it. I heard it, I might have thought
Not
it.
even barely.
Well, we're going to hear a lot more than we want to.
Yay.
Yeah, yay. Because you can't deal with the situation until you know the situation. And that's what this is all about. That's what this section is all about. Life made a burst during this period of time. And what it was headed for is over here. Fishes, a spine, and a whole new way of living. Through the application of the truth, which in this case was that multicellular organisms are more survival than anything else, than individuals. From the application of that truth, we got more evolution. And it went right over here to new foundations. New procedures. This is the God of rain. It's in the fourth day. Very important things happened during the fourth day. For one, the invention of the spine. Fishes. Then we had the first Olympics. And Homer. And the telephone. All of these firsts and all of these developments, new systems, new foundations of consciousness happened during this fourth day. During the fourth night, actually this was the end of Greece. Was during the fourth night. The nights are times of application, but they're not so gentle in a lot of cases. Here, we have the fifth day. Now the fifth day is all about a huge breakthrough in consciousness. It's also ruled by the god of fire. In a plant's life, after it's gone through all this development, then it starts to put out certain chemicals, amino acids, to change the structure of the plant, or the purpose of the plant, to start it on its road to procreation, to being sexual. Some of the things that happened during the fifth day. Well, there was a transition to land. That was a pretty major move. Then there was color vision. Color vision. Then there was the invention of fire, or the control of fire. Then there was art, the development of art, first art found. Then there was Christ himself. And then way down here, EMC squared and the invention of radio. All those sorts of things happened during the 5th days. Those are pretty major advancements. Transition to land, color vision, fire, art, Christ consciousness, E equals MC squared, and a way to communicate, radio, which changed people's consciousness and sped it up some more. Down here, in the 5th day, or 5th night, excuse me, 5th night, we had, I'll just go through this, World War II and atomic bombs. This is like ruled by death, the god of death. Makes sense, huh? What it's actually talking about is death of old consciousness. Right during that period of time. As a matter of fact, many things have gone extinct during this period of time, including the Neanderthals. The dinosaurs went extinct over here in the 6th night. But many things have passed away that were of no positive purpose to the evolution of consciousness. And what we're coming up on is this 3rd day is going to expose truths which most folks won't be pleased with. There's a reason that there's so much hunger and starvation and misery in the world. And the reason has been hidden behind cultural and national ideas. What's the most popular form of hiding the truth from us now? National security. Hiding behind, or hiding with those consciousnesses is stopping the forward of evolution of consciousness. That's going to disintegrate. Not because of any political pressure, because of creation's intention. Creation is forcing this to occur. And it's forcing ethics to be the primary consideration. Right now, most people would not invest in any company that couldn't prove they had integrity. Anyone who can't pass that ethical or integrity test is going to go out of business. And there's nothing that any of them can do about it except get in line. That's going to happen to every aspect of your lives, and all of your neighbors too. Whether they're conscious, thinking about this, worrying about this, or exulting over it, it's going to happen. So you might as well exult over it. Because where this is leading is more and more fun. Now, I want to, sometimes, some of you guys went and listened to me do this whole talk about the different disasters that have happened in history. And there were bad things that happened. Meteor bombardments, ice ages, big extinctions, all of them happening right here in this 5th night. But if you remember, I went all the way up to World War II. And World War II is not the same kind of consequence as 200 million years of meteor bombardment. Things are getting better, folks. They really, really are. We complain about animals not having enough rights. Women, hey, 120 years ago, you were chattel. You had no rights. We have raised the bar so high on what we expect as an ethical and integral lifestyle that massive things have to change in order for things to match our expectation. That's why it kind of looks like things aren't so good, because our expectations are so high. They should be, but if you look and get better perspective, we're all living almost twice as long as people did 80 years ago. Eating far better, clothed far better, entertained up the, we've got entertainment. Things are going to be very, very interesting. Here, during the application of the truth. Now this is the part that we got to really look out for. During this right here, some people's going to go nuts as the truth comes out of how much betrayal there has been. Some people just not going to take it very easy. And then there's all those who are going to frantically be protecting themselves against all the truth. You can already see it, can't you? Well, this is the time period right here. This is December 9th in 2003 through December 4th, 2004. Let's be really happy that these are only 360-day periods. Rather than, like last time around, it was 20-year periods. Took a long time to get over it. Now we've got a lot more momentum, and we're going to be flying through this. Of course, if there's any resistance, guess what? You impact that resistance. If you put resistance in front of this motion, and that is resistance of your own unwillingness to change, you are going to get squished. This application of the truth is going to be kind of tumultuous. This was, in the Greek times, this was their dark ages. Right here. Right over here, the fourth day. Anybody here heard of Nasara? Can anybody speak about it? I can, because I'm not part of the programs. Nasara is the National Economic Security and Recovery Act. Nasara is a secret law that's been passed at least 3 times by Congress, signed by the President many times, by which all of them must abide by the World Court decision that they must all resign. The whole government must resign. And there must be a complete revamp of our banking and economic system. Because thanks to Willie Nelson and Farm Aid, the IRS and the federal bureaus were found to be fraudulent and guilty of treason against all of you. And so Nasara, which is a radical law, radical, complete new foundation for the ethical and integral operation of business, individual, and government alike. It's been scheduled on the books for quite a while. For the last 3 years, it's been in development. It's actually been a law for over a year now, but not enacted. It was supposed to be enacted on September 11th, but we had an accident. So this new foundation, this new structure for having an ethical government, an ethical economic system, isn't in place. It's up here. It was right in here. It was being developed, being germinated, sprouting, going to Congress and getting passed a couple of times. Now it's being talked about more and more and more by people like me and on the internet. And as this truth is exposed, so will the truth about a new foundation be exposed. It will be fully implemented or put into effect during this time, according to the Mayan calendar, during the 4th day. This is November of 2005. We start the 4th night. The 4th night is always a time of the application on the beginning of building new structure on the new foundation. It's ruled by the god of intoxication.
Cheers.
It's a pretty giddy time. Right here. It's a time of healing. After these shifts and changes, it's like a respite during that period of time. And preparation for huge breakthroughs in consciousness. Now, we have a 5th day coming up in 2006 through 2007. During the national cycle, Christ showed up right here and gave us the consciousness that we were divine. We were every bit as divine as the kings and rulers of Rome. That we didn't have to have any particular priests or kings speaking to our Creator for us. That's what Christ brought in, is that we're all sons and daughters of God. Then, during the most recent 5th day, we got E equals MC squared, the blueprint of our physical reality. Another guy, Hubble, discovered that we lived in an infinite universe, which means that everything is possible. So during this period of time, we got the blueprint and the proof that absolutely anything and everything is possible to occur. That's a big opening for consciousness. What do you suppose this one's going to be? We're already doing teleportation. You're already experiencing telepathy daily. What kind of breakthroughs do you suppose we're going to have by 2006? Do you know that they're working on nano computers right now? A nano is a part of an electron, by the way. They're now able to program nanos in order to create molecular-sized computers. When you team that up with the ability to teleport light, you get something which is way beyond our comprehension of computers right now. Infinitely fast computers that are nearly infinitely small. That we're working on right now. Funny thing, the development is happening way faster than they thought. These scientists in Denmark are decades ahead of where they thought they would be 5 years ago. They are already 25 years ahead of where they thought they'd be in 5 years. What does that mean?
Anything is possible.
More and more is possible. Genetics. You know that they just recently did the whole map of the human gene, the genome, right? We have all the human DNA. You probably also heard that that happened 15 years ahead of schedule. This acceleration is for real, folks. Huge corporations are teetering and going to fall over. And it's not so much because of their ethics, although that's a big part of it right now. Research and development is the most expensive part of business. And by the time somebody has gone through the whole process of research and delivered the product to market, it's already extinct. And they have to nearly give it away. The companies can't keep up with the rate of the acceleration of consciousness because they're dealing in physical stuff. Consciousness is not physical. The possibilities in consciousness are not limited by time and space. And that limit of time and space is becoming less and less and less there. I want to do something with you. I want to go through this. This right here, I want to go through this about money. I mean, money's a big deal, right? All of us. I know money's a big deal to me. Here we go. Down here, what was money? Money was sharp pointy sticks and rocks. Some hank of hair tying a rock on to make it a tool, that was exchangeable. So the medium of exchange was rocks and sharp pointy sticks. Here, we go up to cultural, and what we got is an exchange of prettier rocks. That is gold and silver and some gems. We go up here into national. In the national consciousness, we get paper money and a banking system. Paper money. Right here, during this whole thing, we built an economy of electrons. That plastic card in your back pocket, that's a bank of electrons and nothing else. You know what has happened to the medium of exchange? It's gotten less and less physical, hasn't it? Electrons are just mental. Watch the stock market. It goes up and down with how people are thinking about it. It's all electrons. 80% of all commerce is done electronically, not with cash. So what's the next step? We have more steps here. What is going to be the medium of exchange in the future? No. It'll still be there. But there is an evolution going on here. We use gold already, okay? We have that as one. We've gone from a physical medium of exchange to less physical, now a mental medium of exchange. What's the next level? Spiritual exchange. And there's only one thing that spirits exchange. Admiration. They exchange particles of admiration. You can call it lots of different things. You can call it the emotion love. But what they're really doing, bottom line, is they're flowing admiration, which is all you were ever doing. How many boxes of berries is that blanket worth? As much as you admire it. How many electrons is that Corvette worth? As much as you admire it. And if you don't admire it enough, then you're going to buy a pickup truck or a Volkswagen or something else. The true value of anything to everyone is how much they admire it. And that will be the next step in our economics. How valuable is a company on Wall Street right now? How much do you admire WorldCom? So what's going to be valuable in the future? And what should you be investing in? What is admirable and nothing else? Now, if you find gold admirable, there you go. Lots of people do. But you know what's going to be more admirable than anything? Your consciousness. Your truth. Your ethics and your integrity. Those are what will sustain you through any and all of these changes. In fact, will buoy you up so that you're not suffering through this process. Because it's those people who have their integrity, who have the courage, the ethics, to go ahead and create for yourself what you wish to experience. It's those people with integrity who will be able to take advantage of the opportunities presented by creation. And those people who do not have integrity, those people who are having to hide behind something or resist something or another, will bring upon themselves what their consciousness is focused on, their own fear. And their own judgment. And that's a bitch, ain't it? That's what's going to happen down here for sure. You've heard of Judgment Day? Well, all of this is decision time. All this is an opportunity for you to look at how things are going and make up your mind. Am I going to stay on this power train or I'm jumping off now? What? Am I going to get more ethical and more follow my own integrity, or am I going to go and just hunt down that dollar? So, down here, by this period of time, those points of view or those consciousnesses that could not keep up with creation are extinguished. Right here. They're done. They're gone. And creation is on to new things. As a matter of fact, this is the flower. This is puberty, by the way. Remember puberty? It wasn't so easy, was it? It was exciting, but it wasn't so easy. There was all this change going on, and I'm supposed to be like this. No, I'm not. Well, that's the kind of thing that all of consciousness will be going through during this period. Here, though, is adolescence. Here's where you probably got laid. It was all worthwhile all of a sudden. This is when flowers are certainly having sex with birds and bees right here. And right in this period of time, there's some very wonderful things that have happened historically. Like the Renaissance in France happened during this period of time. And the flower children, remember flower children? This is called Renaissance. And it's ruled by the god of flowers. This is also during this time. This is when King Arthur and the Round Table were around. Right here. Also, the Anasazi The civilization of the Anasazi, this was their golden time right here. During the 6th day was the flower of their civilization. And the Maya as well. This is when they flowered. What happens to flowers? They die to become seed pods. Or a fruit, which is a seed pod. And this development during the 6th night is when the seed pod dries up, and then it springs out all the seeds during the 7th day. What's going to happen here is that after this breakthrough of consciousness, after all the decision has been made on whether you are going to be part of this evolution or not, from that point on, there's no more anchor. No more this can't happen. No more this, you can't do this. In fact, at this point right here, the idea of having control over any other person will be the same kind of idea as having your neighbor's kid for dinner. I mean, cooking him. It would be this, the idea of having control over somebody else will be as foreign or adverse as that concept. And it's only from there that we can meet the neighbors. You see, we're under galactic quarantine until we get to a certain stage of ethical conduct and considerations. They can't get to us either. It's not just us on this planet, you understand? Everything in 3D, I mean the whole universe, the whole third-dimensional universe is going through this at the same time. Other dimensions, more than likely, have already gone through this. It's our turn. No one else on any other planet can get to us, and we can't get to them. Because we're separated on purpose through the plan. You have to be ethical before you make that contact. It's sort of like you got to be 16 before you can get a driver's license. Here, technology will go extinct. For all intent and purposes, spirit will take over 100%. There won't be any sickness. There won't be any lack or hunger. Because spirit will be handling it all. Consciousness is already creating this whole experience. We're just not creating it as consciously as we wish. By this time, we will have all the consciousness, and lots of consciousness, and be experiencing things much more rapidly. Knowledge and wisdom are two different things. You can know something, but once you've actually used the knowledge, then you get wisdom. Some things don't work. Now you know. We're going to be going through that, about creating stuff, stretching our wings, growing our wings. During this 6th night, by this time, the only thing that really would be playing is the word bliss. For that 360-day period, there's going to be such a celebration of liberation and experimentation, getting ready for the completion. Here we have healing, god of medicine, right there. And this is completion. The god of manifestation. Now, this seventh day starts in, let's see, we'll go 2006. 2008. This is 2009. This is 2010. Through to 2011. 2011, over here. There we go. I like that better. 2010. By the time we get to 2009, we will be in, we won't necessarily be here. Because by that time we'll have met the neighbors. And we'll be using their teleportation device to go over to visit them, and then to us, and back and forth. Anywhere you want to be. Anywhere. Star Trek will be like kindergarten. It better be for real. Here, we enter into the universal cycle. The universal cycle is the last 260 days of this 360-day period. So it's about that much of it. And it's during that last little section, that universal cycle, that we are supposed to get up to speed to experience absolutely all of infinity within our consciousness. And if that doesn't fit in your brain, I understand. It's really not supposed to. Not yet. We have a lot of change to go through. But most of it is some really fun stuff. Would you like to be out of debt and never ever be in debt again? That's part of the saga. Would you like to have a different kind of economy where there's only abundance rather than controlled lack? That's part of the application of these systems. Would you like to have the knowledge, the absolutely confirmed knowledge that you're divine and that everything is possible, with demonstrations from other civilizations of other things that we never conceived of that are possible? That's what will happen right here. Would you like to have all of the complete abolition of any limit, of any consideration?
Yes.
That's what happens right here. Technology is a ladder to get up, further and further in consciousness. The reason you guys are experiencing telepathy is because of the internet and the telephone. Your consciousness expects to be in instant communication, and so it is. Technology is a ladder. Technology is the footprint of consciousness. But technology is going to be outpaced by consciousness right here. Then we go into, I don't know what to call it exactly, bliss. A running start at becoming God. That's a big job. Aren't you already up to it?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We just got to get all this junk off our backs. By the way, has anybody noticed, has anybody had this feeling that stuff is falling off of you?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe jobs, positions, identities, spouses. Stuff is just falling off. Happened to me just a couple of weeks ago, big time. Yay! Was upset at the moment. This is this process that we're all going through. Down here, you ever heard of the eye of the needle? There it is. There it is, right there. October 28th, 2011. Eye of the needle. And the camel doesn't get through the eye of the needle. You know where that story came from, right? In ancient cities, on the camel routes, there were lots of robbers and thieves and armies, and so they built the walls really big and thick and tall, and all of the doorways narrow, so that people could just charge in. So when the camel trains came, loaded, the camels loaded down, they had to unload the camel to get it through the eye of the needle. That's what's happening to all of us. We're getting unloaded. But some of the things that you're going to get unloaded from are pretty personal. Like who you thought you were. Some guys that are working in industries right now are finding out that they're not a machinist. They're not a computer specialist. People are finding out more and more what they are not. Maybe this has got something to do with the progression or the evolution of consciousness. We've come a long ways by asking the questions, who are we and what are we doing here? I think it's time to start asking a new question. What am I not? I'm not my house. I'm not my second car. Well, I'm not even my first car. I'm not my relationships. Lots of people are going to be finding that out either gently or not so gently. Eventually, we'll find out that indeed we are nothing. We are no thing. At which point it's pretty easy to go through the eye of a needle. So that's pretty much what is coming down from the Mayan perspective, from what this schedule shows and has shown us, this pattern that's shown over and over again. What I'd like to do, what I really want, is I want questions. You guys have some questions? I cannot have explained the whole universe in 2 hours. Yes? Okay. Oh, you mean, I believe the question was about raising vibrations to where you can change the cellular makeup of the body. Well, actually, that all comes under more is possible. What you pay attention to, you become conscious of, period. So if you pay attention to raising the cellular vibration in your body, then that indeed is what will occur. Just like if you pay attention to how much toothpaste you put on the tube, you're not going to waste it. I mean, it's that literal, folks. And what has been the problem in the past is that most folks didn't believe that. And this is a co-creation. The more people think they're disempowered, the more of a drag it is on everybody. And the more individuals empower themselves, the more it liberates or lightens the load on everybody. Creation is totally on our side. Totally. Notice, there are 7 days and only 6 nights. The deck is stacked. in our favor. There's more consciousness, more opening to consciousness than there is any difficulty. We go from a first day all the way to a seventh day and then go straight to a first day again. All of creation is on our side to further and further evolve consciousness into higher and more able states. So, in eternity? Infinity. Well, right now, infinity is one of those concepts which escapes consciousness. I mean, when you get close to thinking about infinity, you're then thinking about it. Over and over? Yes, higher and higher and higher till infinity. Till no ending. Which is, we won't be there yet. We'll be getting there, and getting there, and getting there. What we got through it is in 2011. October 28th, 2011 is when consciousness is scheduled to experience absolutely everything, all at the same time. Some people, individuals, will be doing that beforehand, but all of creation will be there on that schedule. It's just like if two women get pregnant on the same day, they're going to have their babies at different times. It's a natural cycle. It's not something that's like a light switch clicked on and off. Yes?
So what you're saying is within the next 9 years, the general consciousness is going to change so extensively that all the power-hungry politicians and the drug cartels and all that's going to be eliminated in 9 years?
Yes. Now what she just said was, in 9 years, will all of the power system, all the corrupt politicians, all the drug lords, all the industrialists, will they be gone? Absolutely. By natural disaster and corporate suicide. They cannot keep pace with the changes. If they can't keep pace with the changes, they will be eliminated. They'll be gone. Oh, by the way, I didn't talk about the earth changes, did I? Or poles. That's the truth. You're not told about it on CNN. But scientists know that this is the truth. You're going to get told about it because more and more drastic weather is going to be happening all over the planet during this next 360-day period. As the truth comes forward, whether you want to hear it or not. Then, we have the application of the truth. The application of the truth is when the effects of the sun are going to boil over into earthquakes, volcanoes, typhoons, tsunamis, everything you can imagine.
Drought?
What?
Drought.
Drought?
We're doing that now.
Drought is doing it now. This is a process. Like I said, a plant doesn't grow in stages. It grows through stages. This whole thing is doing the same, this whole process is doing the same thing. It's going through a natural change by degrees, but there are stages delineated. I'm going to put that down. So, what we have here is the majority of the earth changes, which is a good thing because that's the only thing that's going to stop people from fighting. You're going to need something bigger than armies to stop this one. And to stop it this quickly. Otherwise, they got lots of bombs to throw, you know. They got lots of missiles. We need something bigger, faster to stop it all, which is the natural disasters. Then we'll have whole new structures, whole new mountain ranges, for Christ's sake. New foundations. Now, I'm not saying that everything and everybody's going to die. I'm not saying that the earth is going to end. It's going to change dramatically. It's done it many times before on a slower process. But it's done it. geologists, archaeologists, paleontologists, all of them know this is the truth. It's no legend that this place used to be underwater. It's not a legend. You can go out and find shells in the cliffs. It's happened before. Now, where are you safe? Where could you possibly be safe? Only one place: in your intuition. No matter where you are, it's your intuition that guides you. If you, for whatever reason, decide not to pay attention to your intuition, talk to some of the people who have gone through disasters and hear how they made it through. Did they stop to think about it? No. They moved and they moved and they kept moving, and they didn't make decisions. They knew the right thing to do. And that got them through. That's going to be the procedure through this period of time. I think that you guys already have a jump start because you're here. What's so special about here? It's safe. Why is it safe? Well, there's an indication of why it's safe. The Hopi are right up there. There are going to be places that aren't touched much. And there are going to be places that are completely flattened, obliterated, gone, and just trashed. Like any city, for instance. If not by the military and their actions, then by the coast, which is going to be shrinking some 60 feet over the next few years. Because what you're not being told about global warming is that it's not your car. It's the sun. And there's nothing we can do about that. And if he decides to melt the glaciers again, which he's doing right now, and if he decides to do it quickly, which he is right now, then the water level is going to rise real fast. If you've got any coastal properties, sell. But we're going through this elimination process to get to new foundations. Yes?
When will our monetary system start to fall?
When will our monetary system start to fall? You weren't invested in the stock market, I take it. Excuse me.
Where it's totally changed.
Where it will totally change is right here. During the fourth day, when the Sara is actually put in as a law. Well, that starts December 4th, 2004. Right at the end of 2004 and all the way through 2005, to the very end of 2005, is when that is scheduled to be there. Now, what that entails is we will be going back to constitutional law. And to a treasury. The Federal Reserve will be liquidated, along with the IRS. Actually, the IRS officially died on June 17th of 2002. It died when Bob Schultz delivered a letter, a very specific letter to the IRS, declaring that he would never again file or pay income taxes for these particular reasons. And there are many, and they are things that are decided by the Supreme Court and other federal courts over the last few years. These things make the IRS completely fraudulent and a crime on the public. And these facts were entered into public record. So now they're your evidence too. And the IRS cannot prosecute anyone for not filing. They're dead. They had to go sometime. Yeah.
It seems to me like earlier on Earth that there's been civilizations that have a lot more consciousness than we have now. So how does that fit into the calendar?
Can you repeat the question?
Well, the question was, it seems like ancient civilizations had higher consciousness than we do now. And I'm going to use a consciousness that is it's local. The American Indians. Okay, the American Indians had a consciousness which some could say was higher than ours, because they lived in harmony with nature. The Maya had a similar thing. They lived very much as one with creation. Sort of like what you were at 4 days old, 6 months old, 13 months old. You were suckling at your mother's breast. And your consciousness was very bright. But you were suckling and suckling. And what would have happened if you were never removed from your mother's breast? You wouldn't have evolved. What happened to the American Indians is basically everyone but the Hopi, and maybe the Anasazi before them, had a religion that nothing shall change. Tradition is everything. The ancestors are your lords, and you will live by these passed down tenets. Well, change came. And they were removed from the breast of Mother Nature. And they had a hissy fit for quite a few years. Now, their consciousness, the consciousness of the American Indian, is integrated itself into our society. Are they profiting? Most Indian tribesmen now are the most powerful men in their states. And in Canada, they are more powerful than a Canadian citizen. They have more volition. They're helping their people. They're educating themselves. And they're keeping track of a whole lot more than how many feathers are on that turkey, or when are the buffalo going to migrate through here. Their consciousness has sped to where it's now keeping up with creation. They adapted. They came online. And they're doing a lot of good. I wanted to point up something about ethics and power. Right now, they're opposed. Ethics and power. Bam! It's a collision. Once the collision is over, by the way, the ethics train, not a scratch is going to be on the ethics train. The power train is going to be laid in pieces everywhere. But, you know, you can't have ethics unless you have power. You can't be an assistance to the continued survival of anything unless you have some power. My definition of ethics is the deft application of power. Using the right amount. Not too much, not too little. Using what is appropriate for the situation to benefit all. I mean, think about it. A big old blob of kelp laying on the beach somewhere is not going to be able to affect the ethical situation on the planet. Why? It has no power. On the other hand, let's say that a major network, a major broadcast organization decided that for their own survival, they had to become totally ethical and report only with integrity. Now suppose that happened. They already have the power, don't they? If it's applied in the right way, if it's applied in an appropriate fashion, they can make everything more ethical, everything more integral for all of us. This is going to happen. As a matter of fact, it already is. Watch the news. Don't watch the news for who died and who killed that person. Watch the news for what are these people presenting about ethics and integrity. And you will enjoy the show, because you'll see more and more and more of it. And demands on everyone to be more in ethics. Questions? More questions?
Yes.
Yes.
What dimensions are you in on all this? Are you counting that?
What's that again?
What dimensions are you in?
Okay. Only the third. The question was, which dimensions are we counting in this? Only the third dimension. This is only 3D. All of it. All of 3D. But only 3D. Other dimensions aren't part of this. Other dimensions don't have the limitation of time and space. Remember the location of your consciousness? Your considerations of time and place is where you're at. Other dimensions don't have that. That's a limitation. It's your subscription to 3D, like you would get a magazine. You know, you subscribe to Popular Science or Field and Stream. Well, we're subscribing to 3D. Another question? Hey. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I forgot, when will the extraterrestrials are meeting the neighbors? When does that
Oh.
begin?
Well, actually, it's already happening. Right now, in 1999, we received an answer to a communication we sent out into the universe in 1974. Do you hear about that, or you see that crop circle that's an answer? It's a digital printout of a binary code message that we sent out into space. Okay. Happened in the year 2000, right here in the middle of the first day. Since then, we've gotten more and more communications. Communications that, frankly, can be ignored. If you don't want to pay attention to it, it's not a big deal. It's not like the aliens are putting up billboards on the side of the buildings. They're doing it on crops. And just recently, as a matter of fact, the 15th of this month, there was a huge picture of an alien and then a mandala type thing that was laid down on August 15th this year. Huge. It's on the internet. Go check it out. They are in communication right now, but in such a way as they can be totally ignored if you so desire. It's not intrusive. And I don't believe that these guys are from the other planets. I believe they're from other dimensions. Now, by the time we get through into here, down into this formation here, these new foundations are going to include embellishments on our ability to see and communicate with our neighbors. This is where we'll start to actually find other life on other planets, part of our new foundation of understanding. Then, during this period of time, or just after this period of time, is when we'll meet other galactic citizens. And it won't be long after that before we're meeting other citizens from other galaxies as well. That'll be down in here, when we surpass technology And we're way past, in consciousness, any of the limits of time and space, which is, what's the limit between us being here and being in a different galaxy? What's the only barrier? Your consideration that it's impossible. That's the only barrier. Once that's gone, you can be there. So, right in here, 2006 to 2007 is when we'll actually be shaking hands with somebody from a different planet. Yes?
There's so many books now concerning about like the earth changes and the earth is getting into the fourth dimension that we're supposedly in now. They're going to the fifth dimension. As she was saying, when does that occur? Are we staying
Okay.
in the three-dimensional?
Well, it actually occurs from here in a major way. The question was, when do we go from third to fourth to fifth dimension? And from fifth, who knows? We're kind of in a bad perspective to look at higher dimensions, you know. It's way down here. It's like a little kid trying to see what's on top of this shelf, you know. You know something's up there, but you can't quite. From here, our technological advances and our conscious advances will lead us to understand other dimensions, even if we can't get there. But from here on, from this place on, people will be flitting in and out of them until here, by the time we go through 2011, we'll have all that freedom for dimensions other than the third. We're already going through the fourth. The fourth dimension is time. And we're going through time right now. We're wasting time. We're just racing through it. More and more creation happening in less and less time. The space is a consideration that will fail right here. By the time we get down here, 2008, there will be so many holes punched through by consciousness into other dimensions that the consideration that they don't exist will evaporate. It's sort of like Columbus wasn't the only person who thought the world was round. There were maps, for Christ's sake. He had one. He was following it. But most of the people thought the world was flat until there were experiments and there were exhibitions and there were expeditions that came back alive and just blew holes in the fact that the earth was flat. That's the same kind of thing that will be happening right here during that sixth day. But it is not going to be an instant thing. It's not like you can just go in and punch into the fourth and fifth dimension, you know. It's not like that. It's a process. Another question? Well, the reason there's so many books out there about this is because, folks, this is a migration. Think of yourself as a big bull elk or something, you know? And it's time to go eat grass down in the valley. And we're all going that way. That's what's happening to consciousness. It's all moving toward more and more possibility. Moving toward more and more personal responsibility. Moving more and more to ethical and integral styles.
Moving more and more to feminine balance. There's something to do with that control time that you were talking about, where there is an energy coming in with the feminine balance in this earth plane that is related to the Christ time that you were talking about on there. You haven't mentioned. And as somebody said, when you were saying God, Goddess contained the God X, the feminine essence that was taken away.
Yeah, that happened back during the Inquisition. A lot of feminine power was removed by killing some 4 million women for being witches. And your intuition was turned off. But as a matter of fact, you know what a gyroscope is?
Yes.
Like that, right? a gyroscope that has got a thing like that. And here, this is a centering. This is center, like the axle. You know, peace of mind only comes when a person is centered. Is that right? Think about your own experience. When you were personally centered, you had peace of mind. Have you ever had peace of mind when you weren't centered? I doubt it. Centeredness is a prerequisite for having peace of mind. So how do you get centered? With certainty. When you're certain about something, then you're centered. If you're uncertain about something, then you're upset and not centered, right? So, how does one get certainty? There's only one source: the recognition of patterns. When you recognize the pattern, now you're certain that it's going to happen again, or it will work this way. You learn to drive that way. When you first got behind the wheel, you didn't have peace of mind. You weren't centered. You weren't certain because you didn't know the patterns. Now you know the patterns of traffic and the habits, which are also patterns of stupid drivers. So you can have more peace of mind behind the wheel. Now, this gyroscope has a center. But a gyroscope works on the principle of the more motion around that center, the more stable it is. So as creation presents more and more change all around you, if you are stable, if you are centered, you're going to become more and more stable rather than more and more out of control. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So the more you recognize the pattern of creation and the pattern of all these changes, just from tonight's talk. I mean, okay, now we're almost to this stage right now. So let's say in December, just after the elections, or actually it's going to be during the elections and all the accusations and all the truth being splattered on each other. But then after that, all this torrent of truth starts coming out about things you wished you weren't hearing. You're going to remember this talk. And you're going to go, my God, this really is happening. I'm recognizing this pattern right now. And you know what? You'll have more peace of mind. Because this will already be starting to work. And the faster things change around you, the more stable you will get. The more empowered you will be to help others. And that's the real purpose for all this information.
And isn't that the less that you'll be able to hold on to crutches like drugs and drink, etc.?
All those things that get spun off real fast.
Right.
Yeah. So you know what? I want to thank you all very much for coming. And next, I want to make a request. And that is that if you found some value or some validity in your own experience to what we were talking about, please help us spread this information. This information is not going to do this little group of people any good whatsoever. As we watch everyone else go just off their nut, it won't be any fun at all. But if there's any way that you can contact someone who has some admired opinion and make a connection so that we can get to these people and get down to even more brassy tacks than we went over tonight, prove this scientifically, the more people we can get this to over the airwaves, over television, through movies, through other books, the faster we can get it out, the better for everyone. I've been doing this for 2 years, and Madeline's been with me for the last year. And we've been doing this and enjoying this very much. But we can see that the pace at which things are changing is not exactly the pace that we're reaching people. And it's going to take you guys helping us out. Help yourself out. And the books are right back here. I mean, you want some more proof? We got it all. It's all written down. You have to read it, but it's all there. This is not some scheme other than on the part of God. You know, please avail yourself of the information. Please. And then turn somebody else onto it. The tapes that we're making tonight will be for sale in another couple of weeks. We request that if you buy a tape, you show it to a group of people, you ask those people who in the group would show it to others, and you make them a copy and you give it to them.
That's how we started.
Tapes will be ready in about a month.
A month.
Yeah, 2 weeks to a
But
month.
keep checking the website, because as soon as they're complete, they will be up on the website for purchase.
And once you, like I said, once you buy one, have it copied as many times as it'll copy. Okay?
How much are these books?
The books, 25 bucks. $25. They're $24.95 at Amazon.com. We charge you 5 cents for delivery. Yeah. I've been on the Art Bell Show. Yeah. And I'm emailing people all the time. But you understand, I mean, you guys understand, how many talks could you go to this month? Oh my God. Just here, you know? Imagine being Art Bell. He's got a stack this high of emails and faxes of please listen to my message. And every one of these guys, that's of any value at all, is in a blizzard of messages. There's only one way this will get through. And that's by enough people talking about it.
Are the books for sale?
They're for sale tonight. We'll wrap one for you.
Are you asking for a donation tonight?
No, there's no donation.
Why not?
You guys already paid attention. That's enough.